Man, did we have a fucking ball yesterday with the live stream. I just want to say that right off the jump as we get today started. We will be live today again at around 11 a.m. as we got actually quite a lot here on the list when it comes to the Idaho. We only got one topic to discuss on the live stream outside of Idaho, and that is, well, Billy Joe getting arrested. Look for more information on that. But this, we're going to be talking about a glove that was apparently found at the Idaho murder crime scene. We're also going to be talking about hands being bagged because they're looking for evidence there. We're going to be talking about the car and the significance of it, as they believe the car was actually at the residence. I will have another video coming up for you. God damn that phone. I will have another video coming up for you after this, and it'll be talking about two frat members that are now kind of suspects. I really don't know. Guys, I'm JB Gunner. This is Crime Time with JB Gunner. Let's get right into it. Let's go.
Bring it back.
Now, I just want to say right off the jump, I've been doing this for 16 years, and yesterday's live stream was one of the fucking most fun times meeting a lot of you guys that are new subscribers to the channel. And I gotta admit, I was a little nervous because I don't know who's gonna be prudish. I don't know who's gonna like my sense of humor. I don't know which one of you are gonna let my politics, even though I never mentioned them on the channel, kind of bother you and trigger you. I didn't know how it was gonna go. And I gotta be perfectly honest. It was a fucking blast. Regardless of who you are, it was an awesome conversation with pretty much everybody. We had no trolls, no nothing, which I'm sure will change. You guys are awesome. So to all the new people that are subscribed to this channel, thank you guys for being so awesome. It was a good time. Guys, before we get started with this story, I want to say thank you to everybody that supports the channel, regardless of the method you choose, whether it's Cash App, Patreon. If you're part of the Gun Squad and you support all of my work, whether it's here or on other channels, whatever, guys, truth is I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. And if you too want to join the Gun Squad, feel free to hit them links down below. Guys, a couple of you new people from this genre, from the true crime thing, you actually have started to support the channel, and I want to say thank you very much to you guys as well. It kind of gives me an incentive to keep doing these videos every day, because I don't really care about views. I don't really care about subs. I don't care about none of that. But it's always good to be recognized and rewarded for your work. So thank you to you guys. All right, let's get into this. Enough of my shilling, enough of that bullshit. Let's go ahead and get right into this story, because this is an interesting one, right? We're going to start off talking about the hands being bagged at the scene. Idaho murder victims' hands were bagged at the scene to try and preserve crucial evidence that could lead the killer. Cop says he found glove outside. Now, I just want to say this right off the jump, okay? This is actually normal police work. Sometimes when you're doing these stories, you have to report on news that really isn't news. The glove might be news, and we'll talk about that in this as well. But bagging hands so you can check the hands for DNA under the fingernails when you're talking about a physical altercation, that's kind of standard. And once again, I get it. The news has to consistently report on everything, and I think that's a good thing, actually. But this isn't really part of the news. I'm just reporting it to you because, well, they've made it part of the news. Idaho cops have bagged the hands of the 4 University of Idaho students who were murdered in their sleep last night. I don't know why I said last night. That was goofy. Authorities say the victims' hands may contain evidence such as skin or hair under the fingernails of their attacker if they tried to fight back. It's not even just that. Actually, it could have been it's clothes, fibers, anything like that could lead to the potential identification of the perp. But here's the thing, I don't even know for sure, and I want to throw this question out to you guys. Do we even know if they have the perp's DNA? I know I keep hearing everybody talk about, did Jack give DNA? Did the other Jack give DNA? And which, by the way, I'm going to be honest, I'm starting to back off my Jack S thing a little bit, theory a little bit, and in my next couple of videos, you'll see why. But I do want to say this. Do we know that they even have the perp DNA? That is kind of a big deal. Because even with the Delphi case, we don't know if they have the DNA that can link Richard Allen or anything like this. We just assume because they take DNA from people that they have the perp's DNA. I don't know if they do. I don't know if they do, because if this thing was planned out at all, which I'm starting to have a feeling that it was, because we're a month in, and let's be honest here, this probably isn't kids that did this. And this is why my theory is starting to change. Bro, do you know how fucking solid you have to murder someone and how smart you have to be to get away with it and not be noticed for an entire month? I'm just being dead honest. This is a high-profile case. The FBI is in. And I'm going to ask you a serious question. What kind of college kids, what kind of person under the age of 30 is actually smart enough and detailed enough, organized enough to get away cleanly? And to be perfectly honest, in this small town, in this situation, it seems to me that the perp has gotten away clean, which is starting to lead me down the road of potential serial killer. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that because they want to blame one of the jacks, which it still could be. They want to blame the peeping Tom dude, or they want to blame the 2 frat guys, which we'll be talking about in the next video. But I got to be honest. The fact that it's either this is the most inept police department in the history of police departments, or this killer was really fucking good. And I know, I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you millennials and Gen Zers. I don't think y'all are that smart. Just to be honest. To me, someone that gets by with this, it seems to me that they've done it before. And usually 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 30-year-olds, they typically haven't done it before. But anyway, let's just go ahead. I mean, it's possible, but that's just my theory, right? I'm not a big fan of, young people. I don't think they're quite together. I think the education system's a little off. Well, I'll just leave it at that. Idaho State Police would then be able to run the DNA through state and national databases to find a match. And see, that tells me right there that they're hoping that the perp's DNA is in the Codex database. It's in the database. It's not saying they actually have the DNA. And that's why I brought up the question. Do they have DNA at all? The process, though, could take weeks, as there's likely multiple DNA samples found inside the off-campus home. It comes as a retired cop says he found a glove outside the home, and we'll talk about that in this episode as well. Apparently missed during their initial sweep of the crime scene. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm not a big believer in the glove thing, but we'll get to that here in just a second. Now, we already know what happened with this case. We already know who was killed, blah, blah, blah. Although details of the crime scene remain scant, there is no suggestion the victims' hands had been removed from their arms. Well, I'd like to fucking hope not. Idaho cops have bagged the hands of the 4 University of Idaho students. So they had bagged the hands, right? This is kind of the most dark thing I've ever read. Although details of the crime scene remain scant, there is no suggestion to the victims had their hands removed from their arms. What the fuck? And I hate to laugh because this is a serious case, but that seems like a cold thing to say. Kathy, the coroner, said the hands were sealed with bags before the bodies were moved. The news comes as former cop revealed online that he did discover. Well, so hold on, wasn't Kaylee cremated? Oh man, they really did remove the hands, didn't they? Oh man, that's kind of something new, right? The news comes as a former cop revealed online that he discovered a glove, and we'll take a look at that here in just a second. But first things first, let's take a look at the hands story.
People often bag the hands of a murder victim, and for good reason, because when people fight for their life, they will scratch and they will claw at their killer like their life depends on it. And it is honestly the very last thing that a victim can do to help the police catch the person that ultimately kills them. Because in that scratching frenzy, the killer's skin cells become embedded under the victim's nails. And if that victim happens to claw at the killer's clothing, fibers might also get lodged under those victims' fingernails. And so bagging the hands of a victim preserves that magical, precious evidence as those bodies head off to the Office of the Medical Examiner for autopsy. And today, a report that is exactly what happened to these 4 kids.
Well, I don't understand why that's a report. I guess I do. I just don't understand. First of all, it's a month later. Like, from what I understand, the autopsy has already been handled. Like I said, Kaylee's, I think, been cremated. Like, so now we're hearing that they checked underneath the fingernails. I'd like to fucking hope so. Like, that seems like a weird thing to say. Did you finally dust for fingerprints now? You know what I mean? Doesn't that seem weird to you guys? It's like, hey, we'd like you to know now that we did some police work. Well, good for you fuckers.
And their bodies. And then there was something else that was revealed today, a report that Steve Gonsalves had been informed by the medical examiner that his daughter, Kaylee, that her injuries were more ferocious than her friends. Specifically, the report said that the stab wounds were less like stab wounds and more like tears.
Damn.
But we talked to the coroner today, asking if she would describe Kaylee's injuries that way, as tears, and she said no.
No. Now, the question has to be answered because Fox News also came out with a report that came from Stephen. Now, the Goncalves family is saying Fox News lied. The coroner and the sheriffs are saying Stephen's been lying. Meanwhile, they're saying that all of us covering the story independently are lying. Matt, I just want to ask you this. Whether it's the family or the sheriffs or the mainstream media, how could you say we're lying if every piece of information you were giving us, you're fucking backtracking on, right? How the fuck can you do that? Like, legitimately. Like, remember the front door being open? And then you were like, well, I don't know how they got the story that the front door was open. And then we touched on that. Now, there's a lot of people saying, well, they're talking about 2 different times. Maybe. But the point of this is for you to sit and say, I don't know where they got that, when you could have easily said they misinterpreted what I said. And same thing here. When you look at this whole situation, we got Steve talking, and to be perfectly honest, I'm likely to believe Steve. I'm likely to believe the father of Kaylee, because he has no reason to fucking lie. You do, because you're trying to protect the integrity of the investigation. You're trying to get a prosecution, right? But Steve, he's a little bit more of a loose cannon. He's just calling it like he sees it. I do believe the coroner told him this. And I do believe the sheriff has told him things in the past. I'm likely, like I said, and I'm curious what the audience thinks. Do you guys believe the father or do you believe the sheriffs here? To me, to be honest, as I've said previously, it's the sheriff's job to lie to us. It is. He's got to protect the integrity of the investigation, right? Steve, on the other hand, there's nothing he gains from it. That's just my personal theory.
Clearly, exclamation point, in fact. And it honestly seems exactly that's what she has said from the get-go, because here she is on November 17th, just days after the killings. She was actually speaking with me live on this program about the nature of the kids' injuries. Have a listen. And I only ask this because it sometimes determines what kind of a crime this was, a crime of passion, a random crime, a fight, a struggle. Was there, were any of them slashed? Were any of their necks cut? Or were these all puncture wounds?
Well, it was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And they were definitely stabbings. And I mean, it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
Also in question today, a report that says Kaylee's lungs and liver were slashed.
Damn.
Maybe not, according to what the coroner told us a month ago. Have a listen.
There were multiple stab wounds, yes, on them. So, and
were there? Go ahead.
And most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Just like one.
Can you describe what that one might have been?
But they were to, the fatal ones were to the chest area or the upper body area.
You know, it's hard to separate fact from fiction, especially with so little clarity from law enforcement.
It is.
Moscow police told me today.
I will say this. You need to remember though that Steve Goncalves, he got the death certificate. He paid for the death certificate, and this is where he's gotten a lot of his information, or so he claims.
Exclusive interview that you were watching, that silence is strategic, you know, to preserve the case for a trial down the road. I get that.
That's true.
So to help us make sense of it all, I'm joined now by Joseph Scott Morgan.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't need to necessarily talk to you right now, but I do want to show you guys this. Puzzle continues. Mystery of Idaho college murders deepens as glove is found outside Moscow house, where 4 stabbed dead in their sleep. Now, I just want to say this right off the jump. This doesn't mean anything, just to be honest. This is after. Well, you know what? Let me just take you here, because I want to show you guys something right here. Okay, I want to show you something right here. The black glove found at the crime scene was not there early on in the investigation when technicians were collecting evidence. There is the image. Those people were right there collecting evidence. You got to ask yourself, did the glove fall off the technicians? Or, since this has been happening, it's winter, it's snowing, was just some college kid walking down the street with a glove and maybe in his pockets and reached in to grab his cell phone and it fell off. You see what I'm saying? And maybe the wind blew it a little bit because it was right there inside the tape, right there where the trash cans are. And I'll show you. So there is definitely pushback to this glove thing. Let's go ahead and do the story. A retired cop has detailed the moment he said he found a glove outside the Idaho house where 4 students were found stabbed to death. Former homicide detective Chris McDonough confirmed that he handed the accessory to the police at the scene in Moscow in late November. As you can see, there's snow on the ground. He's looking right at a glove. You got to ask yourself, why? To be perfectly honest, this could be evidence, and it's a good thing he turned it in, but in reality, this could just be debris on the ground. This could be just a passerby that dropped his glove. It could be a technician that lost his glove, an investigator that lost his glove. It could be any of those things. He said in a video posted to YouTube, I actually found the glove, pointed it out to the officer who was there securing the scene, and they came and collected it. The officer was there, obviously. They didn't know about it because he came over and photographed it. They came out and got it. So they collected it, which is good. It is understood to have been discovered within the crime scene tape around the house, Newsweek reported. The glove has sparked a few theories, a slew of theories online, said it was crazy. And I'll be honest, it is crazy, but at the end of the day, we don't know if it's from that night. We don't know. Just look at the scene, man. Look at the scene. To be perfectly honest, with as much foot traffic as happens around there, I could see it just being a complete mistake, complete accident. But let's take a look anyway. Hurry up, Banfield.
It is a piece of potential evidence everybody is talking about online.
Nah, we ain't really talking
glove
about
that
that
the
much.
police almost missed. It was dropped, or it was thrown out outside the home where the 4 college students were stabbed to death in Moscow. And there is a good chance that it would still be there right now. But for a former homicide detective turned podcaster who noticed it while he was actually visiting the scene on Thanksgiving, which is 11 days after the murders. Chris McDonough is a veteran of the Oceanside, California Police Department, and currently he's the director with the National Cold Case Foundation. He's also co-host of the podcast, The Interview Room, and he is live with me tonight. Detective, it's so good to have you. First of all, I am shaking my head as I even think I'm doing this interview with you. Take me there. Tell me what happened. You literally showed up and looked down and said, hello, gentlemen, come over here. Have you seen this? Is that really how simple this was?
Yeah, it really was.
Well, to be fair, if I walk past that scene, I could probably find a Coke can or something and pick it up and say, hey, did you guys get this Coke can that some college, or beer bottle that some college kid walking by probably just, you know what I mean? Like, it just, it's good that they collected the evidence, but as much as I think these cops in this case are kind of horrible, they can't be that bad, right? They can't be that bad where there's just an OJ bloody glove just sitting around outside.
Ashley, I mean, it was my wife and I, it was Thanksgiving Day. We happened to be up here in Idaho. And I said to her, I said, hey, let's just go over where that, situation's taking place at the university to get some tape. And we're walking up the street, and the first thing that caught my attention, to be honest with you, was all of the cars still parked on the property. And then I looked over and I saw there was an officer controlling the scene sitting in his vehicle. And I looked to the left and I saw that what appeared to be a glove. And I looked at my wife and I said, is that a glove? And she goes, yeah, I think it is. And so about where Brian was standing tonight, I walked over and looked over, and sure enough, it was a glove. And I immediately
let that sink in exactly where he said, look at that right there. Let that sink in for just a second. He said where Brian was standing tonight. That means Brian Enton, right? If Brian was standing right there and you were able to stand right there, logic says anyone could stand right there or walk right by there. Think of all the media that's been out there. Found the glove essentially right there by the trash dumpsters, right? Is it possible that somebody went to throw, like somebody that was working at the house or the investigating was doing their work and went to throw their glove in a trash dumpster and they just missed the fucking thing? Like us dudes missed the damn toilet seat? Let's be real. Or missed the toilet, you know what I'm saying?
What I'm going to do, I am going to, Chris, thank you for saying that. When we go back to Brian in a little bit, I'm going to actually ask him to walk me to the exact spot so that everybody who's watching right now.
I want you to understand, next to the dumpster, he's saying there's something on the ground. That in itself shows you this is a big nothing burger, right? Let's just call it, I mean, maybe it's not. But you know me, man. I look at all angles of this case. I look at everything. I give everything a go. But this, to me, is pretty much nothing. Not sure what you guys think.
Full perspective. Sometimes it's hard when you're watching through a one-dimensional TV screen. So I'm going to do that. In the meantime, help me with this one because you're the murder detective, but you're also the person who found it. What kind of glove was it, and the significance of the kind of glove as pertains to a murder?
Well, I can't really tell what type of glove it is, if it's a male, female, and obviously the significance may be nothing.
Right.
But it also could be very significant. There appeared to have snow on it, so I assumed it had been there for quite some time, at least before the earlier snowfall. I later learned there are photographs of that glove floating online, and you can clearly see it there. And I was unaware of those at the time. And when I told the officer, I waved him over and I said, hey, you need to come take a look at this. And he walked over and his first words were, oh, wow. And I said, yeah, and I told him, I said, hey, I'm a retired homicide guy. You probably want to collect that, get your evidence people out here to do that. And he took some photographs of it, and I assumed that they, had collected it. I videotaped him doing it just in case, at least taking the photographs. But yeah, it was crazy. It was just sitting there.
And this is, to be clear, it's inside the crime tape. This was not something that you discovered outside the crime tape, but they weren't watching, they weren't looking for it. So they'd had 11 days to scour the outside of the property. And I need to remind our viewers that you're from California, where one of the biggest first cases of my career happened, and a bloody glove was the significant piece of evidence
of course
in
it
O.J.
was.
Simpson's case, which is why we don't make light of something that's just maybe looks like garbage. Certainly that's just a couple dozen feet from the front door.
Yeah, I mean, the significant...
Well, to be fair, it was at the very edge of the yard where the trash barrels were.
Of it,
You gotta love how the news media twist some of the words. I was right by the front door, only a couple 100 feet. You know what I'm saying? What he said. It's not quite what she said, but you get the point. Like, it was almost off the property.
Is unknown at this point. You know, obviously, if it is involved, then it could be, you know, very important. If it's not, then, you know, at least you have it.
Right.
And you can put it into evidence just to say it's there. So, you know, the officer, in my opinion, you know, said,
ain't it hilarious how he's got his little, he's on the news, right? He makes sure he put his little silver play button in the back. For you guys that don't know, silver play button is when you got 100,000 subs. I've actually got 3 of them. But that motherfucker put his silver play button like in the back on the couch, posted up for the news. Come on, man. This is just another YouTuber come on.
he was going to bring the evidence folks to come collect it.
Think about where that's located.
And I hope they did that, to be honest with you.
And by the way, it looks like he's in like an RV or something, doesn't it? Like so he's just got his YouTube black posted. Is that a couch or is that a bed? You guys let me, I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem natural.
The key part here is that you, as a homicide detective, you've seen the inside of a courtroom or two. And today the police were telling us part of the reason they're keeping information so close to the guest is to preserve the pristine nature of the prosecution, of the criminal procedure. So I could see a defense attorney watching our interview right now and saying, you didn't even see the most critical evidence, you know, even inside the crime tape for over a week and a half. Like, you leave something too long, and that becomes fodder for a defense later on as well. So it's a problem if you don't pick it up.
It's funny because one of the commenters here said that same thing to me, right? He said, you're giving the defense reasonable doubt, the jury reasonable doubt. Well, good. You know what I'm saying? If your case is solid and you got the right guy, you'll get him. And if there is reasonable doubt, I don't want to see anybody convicted.
Investigators, it's also a problem for the prosecutors. I'm going to just give you about 20 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. And 100%. I mean, and so you got to ask yourself, why were the cars still there for 2 or 3 weeks? I mean, the first thing you do is you work the crime scene from the outside in. You don't work the crime scene from the inside out.
That's a valid point.
Those cars should have been impounded within day 1 or day 2.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point. Well, there's only 10 seconds left. It's an interview. Guys, there's a lot of things going on. We got the glove, which I don't think is actual anything of value, right? We have the hands being wrapped or, preserved, which I think is just common sense. But with the car, they're actually, I want you to see it. I want you to see this because it looks to me that they're saying that the vehicle was there that night. Let's take a listen.
What's the significance of this car?
The significance of the car is we know it was there. We know we haven't spoken to who was in that car.
This is Robbie Johnson. This is
own that car.
For you guys that don't know who Robbie Johnson is. Robbie Johnson, I believe. I saw the name a second ago. Where was it? I just saw the name a second ago, but the name Robbie Johnson is actually very important in this case. Damn it, I'm not gonna waste time looking for it too much. But the name Robbie Johnson has come up over and over. So there's some credence to what's being said here. That's all I'm saying.
And we need to speak to them. We know
Moscow
that
Police Information Officer
could really have the information we need.
That's who it is. It's the Moscow Police Information Officer.
What's the significance of this car?
The significance of the car is we know it was there. We know we haven't spoken to who was in that car, who may have owned that car, and we need to speak to them. We know that that person could really have the information we need to break the case.
So the police information officer is saying we know that they were there. I find this interesting because also we're hearing right here by Brian Enton that essentially they are taking the camera footage from all over the town, including the corner club. So they believe this car is important. They're looking at the gas station footage. They're going and trying to get footage from the corner club. You know what that tells me? It tells me they believe the corner club could be connected, which once again ties back into my Jack S theory. However, we're going to get to the next video. We're going to watch this, but I just want to make this clear that, in fact, I'm just going to show you just real quick this man right here. That'll be in the next video. Now, we're going to finish this video, but remember that name right there. Because there's Barry and Loach. Remember those two names, because those will be who we discuss in the next video. Let's get back to this. Brian Hinton's talking about them gaining footage. We just heard them say they believe the car was there.
We've got a few new interesting nuggets in terms of video. Sorry, there's a car going by back here. The A&W and the gas station, it's kind of one combined unit. We go there like a couple times a day for hot chocolate. It's 0.4 miles from where I'm standing. It's kind of a place where everyone in the area goes. You can see it right there, either to get gas or to get a snack. It's like the biggest gas station right in this little town. We have confirmed that police have been there and have video from the gas station and have been looking at that video. Whether they have a reason, they think the killer was there, we don't know. Is it possible they're just looking because this is a very, very popular gas station?
Very possible.
I think that's likely the answer there, but we have confirmed that police are reviewing video from that place.
So, Brian, it's not the only place that they said they're spending hours and hours and hours scouring video. And I mean, I just assumed, right, that they were looking at all the places that the kids were that night. But there's one spot, the corner club. That's where Kaylee and Maddie were.
Yeah, they're looking at the video from the corner club, too, which is obviously very important because you want.
Also, remember, Hoodie Guy, from all reports, got put out of the corner club that night.
Want to see who else is on the video, who they were interacting the night before the murders. I've been there. There are a lot of cameras there. There's cameras on the outside and cameras on the inside, from what I could tell. When I went inside, the bartender and the staff wouldn't talk. They said they were told only to talk to police.
Damn.
But I saw the cameras with my own eyes. So I think those are probably much more critical.
Damn, the police, that's big. They were told to only talk to the police. The corner club people were told to only. Oh, man.
To the investigation right now.
So with something else, Police Captain Roger Lanier said today that really caught your
That's
attention.
big, right?
What stood out? Because listen, you really have to read between every single word, not just line, in order to figure out what's happening in this, in this detective work. So what stood out to you with what the captain said?
Yeah, so they released this YouTube video, which they've done in the past. This time it was with the police captain. And I really listened to those very closely because these are people who are in the middle of the investigation, people who actually work for the police department. And there was one line that stood out to me, you mentioned it, when he talked about how they have information that they're not sharing, and I'm paraphrasing.
Well, no shit.
But that they have to keep the integrity of the investigation. And then he said, not just because we want an arrest, but because we want a conviction.
That's a good point. Do they already have
I just
somebody?
thought that was interesting. Like, does that possibly mean that they know way more than we realize right now?
Well, of course they do, dickhead. Of course they do. Once again, getting back to the glove, you can see right there the glove is not, the glove, they're saying it was not there when they initially did the investigation. So just to summarize this video, we're talking about the glove found. I don't believe it has anything to do with the case. That's just my theory right off the jump, but I do want to hear your guys' theory. We're talking about the hands being bagged to look for DNA. That's normal shit, right? Now, whether they find some on there, maybe. But also, I have a feeling they don't actually have the killer's DNA. They're going to hope they can match it in codex or something like that. But if it's one of the youth, chances are it's not even going to be there, right? The car, they've made it very clear. They want to see. I wondered why they were focusing on this white Hyundai, right? And it looks like they're revealing because it was there. It was on the scene. Now, this does bring up something that I want to talk about just real quick before we get up out of here. We have talked about the possibility of it being a drug deal gone wrong. Guys, later on I'm going to talk about this because this may in the next video where we're talking about Ethan. I want to talk about Ethan and the possibilities, as heard on Dr. Phil, of him getting into a fight with a couple of people at said at the frat house. We can be talking about David, where there's a couple people here. There's a lot of things that's been focused. David Loach, this man right here. A couple of these people got into, apparently, have issues with him, Maddie, and his girl, right? Apparently, Kaylee is being said wasn't even a target, if you believe this types of shit. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next video. But I want to say this. Ethan's mom was if this is Ethan's mom, which by all it does look to be. The woman's name is Kara Cornoodle. Oh, it's Zana's mom, not the boys. Zana's mom. She was arrested on November 19th for an outstanding drug-related warrant. Explains possible motive and why Moscow police believe the University of Idaho murderers were targeted. Is it possible that there was really drugs involved? Is it possible that Ethan and Zana were the actual target? Zana's got a druggy mom. Ethan's fighting with people at the frat house. We'll talk about that in the next video. But there's a lot going on here. And I'm curious about your guys' opinion. With that theory, is it possible the person in the white car was delivering drugs at 3:30 a.m., like the Venmo said? Just curious. Guys, let me know in the comment section what you think. We will be live today around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or maybe noon, something along those lines. Right now, I believe I have it scheduled for 11 a.m. I may push it back to noon. This video took me a while. I got another one to do. I want to let you guys see these videos prior to the live stream. But guys, we will be live then. We'll talk about a lot of this shit then as well. If you guys like what I do here and you find my content valuable, feel free to hit the links down below. Support the channel. Join the Gun Squad. Appreciate you all. I will see you guys later. Let me know what you think. Love y'all. Peace out.